Iran. In grade school, I'm pretty sure that's how we were taught to say it. The country of Iran. Just like I ran to recess. Or you remember that crazy time my husband and I ran a half marathon and he didn't train for it at all? And then near the end of the race, he told me to keep up? Okay, so really he said, "You're doing a good job, keep it up." But the person who trained and was exhausted heard him say, "keep up," which made me very angry. I digress. I ran it, and so did he. But perhaps we learned how to say that country name wrong. Iran? I think it is Iran. Hello everyone, thanks for stopping by my channel. My name is Steph Gerges, or in the classroom you'd call me Mrs. Gerges, and I am a social studies teacher where we learn about yesterday to understand today to help us write a better tomorrow. Today we're going to talk about Iran, which during the time period of the 5th century BCE was known as the Persian Empire, or modern-day Iran. It was one of the first complex civilizations. Iran has this very arid climate. Any civilization needs a few things to survive, and you probably know what they are if you've watched any Survivor or Wilderness show. They are water, food, shelter. But water is tricky in an arid environment. During this time, the Persian Empire had this engineering feat known as the QANAT system, which is basically these underground aqueducts to get water. Pretty impressive for how long ago that was. You see, Persia was a monarchy. It had a king, and they were united. Basically, they conquered various other city-states in that area, and they united them into the Persian Empire. There were 3 key leaders that you have to know about when you learn about the Persian Empire. The first one was CYRUS the Great. You might be asking, how do you get the Great title in your name? For him, he was just really actually a nice guy. In history, he's known more for mercy versus cruelty to how he treated people. He actually freed the Jews who were pushed out of their homeland and allowed them to come back to their holy city of Jerusalem so they could build a temple. In fact, he allowed people everywhere to worship their own religions. This is a big deal within history. In this time period in Persia, the official religion was Zoroastrianism. They worshipped a god named Ahura Mazda, and it basically focused on this great battle between good and evil. They believed in a heaven and a hell, and the big question is, did they copy from Judaism or the other way around? We're not totally sure, but either way, under Cyrus, you could follow whatever religion you believed in. Now, the second key leader you need to know about was Darius the Great. He ruled after Cyrus's death, and he expands the empire even bigger than it was before. It is said there were 14 million people that lived under Darius's rule. He set up some new capital cities like Persepolis and Susa and built some monumental buildings. Quick aside about this. How do rulers all throughout history legitimize their rule? When I say that, I mean, like, how do they show the people that they're legit, which is part of that word, that they're the ruler? Simple. They build big stuff. And that's what Darius did. He built some sweet gardens, which in an arid climate is pretty impressive. And just like Cyrus was a nice guy, so was Darius. When he was building these big buildings, he actually paid the workers to do it and didn't force slaves to build them. Darius also set up a sweet system to maintain control. He was just one dude and control of 14 million people, so he needed some sort of system to make that happen. So he set up satrapies, which are basically provinces, and then a satrap who governed that area. Think of it kind of like the states in the US federal system. You see, not all bureaucracy is bad. He also, in this empire, set up the royal road, which helped bring greater trade to the area, which means money, and even had a mail service developed. During his rule, he expanded his empire, and he actually moves towards Europe and attacks some Greek city-states. And this is pretty important to know. We will learn more about this in the Greek video, but it's tricky because we don't actually have a ton of primary sources that tell a story from the Persian perspective, but always just from the Greek perspective, most likely favoring the Greeks. So This is what happens. The Persians lost this battle known as the Battle of Marathon, and they retreat and stop attacking them until later in history. This series of wars between the Persians and the Greeks is known as the Persian Wars, or the Greco-Persian Wars. You see, the Persians later on in history tried again to attack the Greeks under King Xerxes, but again, they lost during that time. But the bottom line is this: the Persian Empire was a trendsetter, and in fact, many people copied what they did later on. But let's be honest, that's what most of history is. One giant case of plagiarism. Although I'm not sure we could call it that, as everyone changed the words and assumed they made it first. Thanks for tuning in. Feel free to subscribe below as we continue to learn about yesterday, to understand today, and help write a better tomorrow.